Welcome to Headphone News, International Edition for Sunday, December 1, 2024.
Cautious optimism among climate venture capitalists. In this episode, we explore the cautious optimism of climate-focused investors as they consider the possibility of Donald Trump serving a second term as President of the United States. These venture capitalists are hopeful that Trump's policies could positively impact investments in sustainable technologies and clean energy. Looking back at his first term, we saw a rollback of environmental regulations that affected climate investments. If he is re-elected, we might see similar policies emerge, which could shift funding and innovation in the climate sector. Investors are keenly aware that political changes can influence economic growth and job creation, making it crucial for everyone involved in climate investments to understand these dynamics.
Gautam Adani addresses U.S. bribery allegations. Gautam Adani, the founder of the Adani Group, is facing serious bribery claims from U.S. authorities involving $265 million USD. These allegations raise significant concerns about how the Adani Group follows regulations, as it plays a major role in various sectors in India. Speaking live from Jaipur, Adani highlighted the company's commitment to following the rules and its ability to handle challenges. Notably, the Indian government has not received any formal requests from the U.S. regarding these claims. This situation underscores the importance of ethical business practices and could affect investor confidence in India. The Adani Group operates in key areas like energy, resources, and infrastructure, making its reputation vital for attracting foreign investments. With ongoing scrutiny, investors may become more cautious about compliance risks in the region.
Swiss National Bank chairman discusses economic challenges. In a recent talk in Frankfurt, Germany, Martin Schlegel, the chairman of the Swiss National Bank, discussed the economic challenges facing Switzerland. He highlighted how weak German industry is affecting Swiss manufacturing, as lower demand from Germany, Switzerland's largest trade partner, is impacting local businesses. This year, the Swiss National Bank has reduced its benchmark interest rate to 1%, with expectations for further cuts. Current market predictions suggest a 72% chance of a 0.25% cut and a 28% chance of a 0.5% cut at the upcoming monetary policy meeting on December 12, 2024. Inflation in Switzerland remains low, currently sitting at an annual rate of just 0.6%, the lowest in over 3 years. Schlegel emphasized how interconnected European economies are, noting that downturns in one country can significantly affect its neighbors. Understanding these dynamics is crucial for consumers and businesses as they prepare for potential changes in interest rates and economic conditions.
Cactus pear cultivation in southern Italy. In the Puglia region of southern Italy, cactus pear, scientifically known as a Puntia ficus, is becoming a promising solution for local agriculture. With global warming, drought, and plant diseases threatening traditional crops like olives, this innovative farming method is gaining attention. Andrea Ortenzi, a former telecom manager, founded a startup called Wakanda in 2021 to focus on growing cactus pears. Currently, Wakanda has planted 10 hectares and plans to expand to 300 hectares by 2025. Cactus pears use significantly less water than corn, making them a sustainable choice for dry conditions. They can be turned into various products, such as juice and flour, providing new income opportunities for local farmers. With about 100,000 hectares of olive trees affected by Xylella disease, cactus pear farming could help restore agricultural stability in the region. This shift towards sustainable crops is crucial for global food security, especially as climate change continues to impact traditional farming practices.
Pharmacist wins human rights case in British Columbia. A pharmacist in British Columbia, Canada, has achieved a major victory in a human rights case, receiving $8,100 Canadian dollars, which is roughly $5,800 United States dollars. This case arose when the pharmacist faced discrimination while trying to return to work after being prescribed Suboxone, a medication for opioid addiction. An independent medical checkup determined that the pharmacist was not able to work due to the use of Suboxone. This ruling shines a light on critical issues related to workplace discrimination and addiction treatment, and it may inspire others facing similar challenges to seek justice. It could also prompt changes in workplace policies regarding health and addiction support.
Protests in Georgia over EU accession talks. Protests broke out in Tbilisi, the capital of Georgia, on November 30, 2024, after the government decided to freeze European Union accession talks for 4 years. Prime Minister Irakli Kobahidze called the protests a plot against the government and stated that a revolution would not be allowed. More than 100 demonstrators were detained during the unrest, highlighting widespread dissatisfaction with the government's pro-Russian policies. The ruling Georgian Dream Party, which won 54% of the vote in the recent elections, halted the talks, accusing the EU of using pressure tactics. This decision goes against the popular desire for EU membership among Georgian citizens and raises concerns about the country's future relationship with the EU and a potential shift toward Russia. The protests reflect the ongoing fight for democracy and closer ties with the West in Georgia, emphasizing fears of reduced foreign investment and economic instability.
Petrobras bids for offshore vessels in Brazil. Petrobras, Brazil's state-run oil company, has recently announced a bid for 2 offshore oil production vessels for its deepwater project in Sergipe. This project aims to boost oil production capabilities and is set to start operations in 2030. Each vessel will process 120,000 barrels of oil and 12 million cubic meters of natural gas daily. Petrobras plans to use a build, operate, and transfer model, allowing an external firm to manage the project at first. The previous bidding round didn't attract interest, leading to delays for a project that was initially scheduled to begin production in 2028. This investment is vital for Brazil's energy sector, as it could create jobs and stimulate the local economy. Petrobras's recent strategies show its commitment to expanding offshore operations, which may significantly impact global oil prices and the broader energy market.
Summary of the 2023 Okanagan wildfires. In August 2023, the central Okanagan region of British Columbia, Canada, experienced devastating wildfires known as the Grouse Complex. These fires burned over 15,000 hectares, forcing more than 30,000 residents to evacuate their homes and damaging or destroying 303 structures. The total insured losses from these wildfires reached nearly 500 million Canadian dollars, which is about $370 million United States dollars. A recent report emphasizes the urgent need for community preparedness and safety measures, highlighting the role of Fire Smart, an organization dedicated to reducing fire risks. The report also calls for improved strategies to prevent future wildfires, especially during dry conditions. The long-term effects of these wildfires will impact local economies and the mental health of residents. Insurance companies may face increased claims, potentially leading to changes in policy coverage and premiums. Ultimately, community resilience and effective disaster management will be crucial for recovery.
Call for coverage of life-saving cancer treatment in British Columbia. In British Columbia, Canada, Jim Larson is calling on both the federal and provincial governments to cover the high costs of a new cancer treatment known as Pluvicto. Each dose costs $27,000, which adds up to $135,000 for a typical 5-dose treatment. Many patients may find it hard to afford this without government support. Larson is urging negotiations to resume between the Pan-Canadian Pharmaceutical Alliance and the pharmaceutical company Novartis. The high price of Pluvicto raises serious concerns about access to essential healthcare for patients fighting advanced prostate cancer, highlighting a larger issue of drug pricing in Canada, where many people face financial challenges in getting the treatments they need.
High cost of Medevac for Alberta senior raises concerns. A 78-year-old woman from Fitzgerald, Alberta, faced a staggering bill of 29,000 Canadian dollars, which is about $21,500 US, for a medical evacuation flight to Edmonton after a health emergency. Alberta's healthcare system doesn't cover medical transports from outside the province, putting residents in remote areas at risk of high costs. This situation highlights the struggles of people living in isolated communities across Canada, where access to emergency medical services can be limited. The financial strain of such emergencies raises important questions about healthcare coverage and accessibility for those in remote regions. There may be a need for greater support for better healthcare policies to address these challenges.
Land ownership dispute in Newfoundland and Labrador. In a recent legal case in Newfoundland and Labrador, Everett Sacre, a resident of Portugal Cove Street, Phillips, has lost a dispute over land that has been in his family since the 1980s. This issue comes just after the provincial government proposed changes to how Crown lands, public lands owned by the government, are managed. Sacre's plans to build a family home on this land are now uncertain and could become more costly. The new laws aim to make it easier to acquire land, but they have raised concerns among landowners about their rights. This situation highlights ongoing challenges related to land ownership in Newfoundland and Labrador, impacting many residents and potentially setting a precedent for future disputes.
Saskatchewan Legislature faces financial challenges. The Saskatchewan Legislature in Canada is facing serious financial challenges, with a projected deficit of $744 million Canadian dollars, which is about $548 million United States dollars. This deficit has nearly tripled from earlier estimates. Premier Scott Moe is backing tax changes that could allow around 54,000 residents to stop paying income taxes. The government attributes much of this deficit to increased crop insurance claims due to dry conditions that have hurt crop yields. These discussions are crucial as they relate to concerns about the cost of living for residents. The outcomes of these debates may impact public services and the overall economy of Saskatchewan.
Concerns over proposed tariff impacting Christmas tree industry in Canada. In Nova Scotia, Canada, Christmas tree exporters are expressing serious worries about a proposed 25% tax increase by U.S. President-elect Donald Trump on goods coming from Canada and Mexico. This potential tax could greatly affect the Christmas tree industry, which relies heavily on exports to the United States. In 2022, live Christmas tree imports from Canada to the U.S. were worth $68 million USD. According to the 2021 Census of Agriculture, there are 1,364 Christmas tree farms across Canada, with nearly all, 97.2%, of the 2.4 million trees exported going to the U.S. If this tax is put into effect, consumers might see higher prices, and Canadian farmers could face lower sales and profits. This situation highlights how crucial trade relations between Canada and the U.S. are, along with the potential economic challenges for the agricultural sector.
Rising senior homelessness in Winnipeg. In Winnipeg, Canada, Siloam Mission has reported a significant rise in the number of seniors seeking help, with a 10% increase over the past year. Many seniors are facing homelessness for the first time due to the rising costs of living, including rent and food. Darren Nodrick, the Director of Development at Siloam Mission, pointed out that some seniors are forced to choose between paying rent and buying food. The situation has worsened since inflation started to climb in 2023. Tessa Blakey Whitecloud, the CEO of Siloam Mission, shared her concerns on social media about the growing number of seniors experiencing homelessness. Laura Tamblyn Watts, CEO of CanAge, described this trend as an emergency. This increase in senior homelessness reflects broader economic challenges affecting many communities. Tackling this issue requires everyone to work together, individuals, nonprofits, and government agencies, to create long-term solutions for affordable housing and support services.
Kenya and Uganda mediate Ethiopia-Somalia dispute. In recent developments, Kenyan President William Ruto and Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni have stepped in to mediate a growing dispute between Ethiopia and Somalia. This conflict revolves around Ethiopia's plan to build a port in Somaliland, a region in northern Somalia that declared independence in 1991 but isn't recognized internationally. The situation is further complicated by the presence of thousands of Ethiopian troops in Somalia, who are there to fight al-Qaeda-linked insurgents. As tensions rise, Somalia is drawing closer to Egypt and Eritrea, both of which have historical conflicts with Ethiopia. The mediation efforts aim to stabilize the Horn of Africa, a region facing significant political and military challenges. If these negotiations succeed, they could improve relations and enhance security. However, failure may lead to increased conflict. Understanding the historical context of Somaliland's independence and the geopolitical dynamics in the Horn of Africa is key to grasping the implications of this dispute.
Impact of spending cuts on HIV treatment in Argentina. In Argentina, serious concerns are rising among people living with HIV, AIDS and healthcare professionals due to significant spending cuts by President Javier Milei. The budget for free HIV, AIDS treatment has decreased by 67% in real terms for 2024, with another 46% cut expected in 2025. Initially set at 21 billion Argentine pesos, which is about $56 million, the budget will only increase to 23 billion pesos, around $61 million, even though inflation is projected to exceed 100%. This drastic reduction threatens the health of about 140,000 individuals living with HIV, with over 9,000 likely to face interruptions in their treatment. Additionally, the number of condoms distributed has dropped significantly, from over 500,000 last year to just over 200,000 this year. The Husped Foundation warns that these budget cuts could lead to more serious health crises and ultimately higher healthcare costs. This situation highlights the ongoing challenges faced by public health services in Argentina amid economic difficulties.
Kennedy's meeting with Romanian presidential candidate. In this episode, we talk about the upcoming meeting between Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Călin Georgescu, the far-right candidate who recently won the first round of Romania's presidential election. This meeting is scheduled for December 5, just days before the important runoff election on December 8. It comes at a crucial time for Romania, as there are growing concerns about its political direction and its relationships with Western nations. Romania's Supreme Court has ordered a recount of the votes due to challenges against the election results. Interestingly, this meeting also coincides with the launch of Kennedy's new book on the coronavirus pandemic, which features a preface by Georgescu. The outcome of this election could greatly influence Romania's political landscape and its ties with the United States, making it vital to understand these developments and their potential impact on regional stability and international relations.
Bail granted to journalist amid protests in Pakistan. A court in Islamabad, Pakistan, has granted bail to journalist Matullah Jan, who was detained while looking into reports of casualties during protests demanding the release of former Prime Minister Imran Khan. Jan's lawyer, Aman Mazari, confirmed that the bail was granted on November 30, 2024. The protests began after the government denied using deadly force against demonstrators. Reports say that 4 security officers were killed, while the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf Party claims that between 8 and 40 protesters lost their lives. This situation raises significant concerns about press freedom in Pakistan, where journalists face dangers when covering sensitive political topics. The ongoing unrest reflects deeper political tensions in the country, especially regarding the military's role in government. The Committee to Protect Journalists has expressed serious concern over Jan's detention, highlighting the challenges media professionals face in Pakistan.
Trump and Trudeau discuss trade and tariffs. On November 30, 2024, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump met with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at Mar-a-Lago in Florida. They talked about key border issues, trade relations, and energy policies. Trump announced plans to impose a 25% tariff on imports from Canada and Mexico, which raised concerns about a potential trade war. During a news conference in Ottawa, Trudeau stressed the importance of these tariffs. The meeting lasted 3 hours, highlighting the need for cooperation between the two countries. Trump also warned the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, against creating a new currency to replace the US dollar, cautioning that this could lead to significant economic consequences affecting trade and consumer prices. The proposed tariffs could raise costs for U.S. consumers and strain relations with Canada and Mexico, both vital trading partners.
Israeli airstrike in Gaza causes casualties. On November 30, 2024, an Israeli airstrike hit a residential building in northern Gaza, leading to many casualties, according to local medics and emergency services. The strike took place in the Tal al-Zatar area, where numerous residents were trapped under the rubble. The Israeli military claimed they were not conducting any operations in that region. This airstrike is part of Israel's ongoing military actions against Hamas, which escalated after Hamas attacked southern Israeli communities in October 2023. The conflict has created a severe humanitarian crisis in Gaza, significantly affecting civilians. International concern is rising over the increasing number of casualties and the urgent need for humanitarian aid. The situation remains tense, with further escalations potentially threatening stability in the Middle East.
Australia's new social media law for kids. Australia has just enacted a new law that prohibits children under 16 from accessing social media. This legislation aims to protect young users from harmful online content and imposes significant fines on tech companies that don't comply, with penalties reaching nearly 50 million Australian dollars, or about $32 million US. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese addressed criticism from Elon Musk, the owner of X, who claimed that the ban is a way to control internet access in Australia. This action by the Australian government sets a strong example for other countries looking to implement similar regulations. The law is set to take effect in January 2025, following a trial period that will begin soon. This legislation highlights growing concerns about child safety on social media platforms and could influence how tech companies operate in Australia and beyond.
Historic treaty signing for Métis rights. On November 30, 2024, the federal government of Canada made history by signing its first modern treaty with the Manitoba Métis Federation in Winnipeg, Manitoba. This landmark agreement is a major step forward for the Métis people, affirming their rights to govern themselves and create their own laws. David Chartrand, the president of the Manitoba Métis Federation, shared how emotionally significant this event is, emphasizing its impact on future generations. Crown Indigenous Relations Minister Gary Anandasangari was present at the ceremony, highlighting the treaty's importance in recognizing the inherent rights of the Métis. This agreement is part of ongoing efforts to address past wrongs and improve relationships between Indigenous groups and the government. The signing is expected to pave the way for future treaties with other Indigenous communities in Canada, promoting healing and the recognition of rights. This treaty marks a significant step toward equality and respect for the Métis and all Indigenous peoples in Canada.
Métis Nation British Columbia withdraws from National Council. The Métis Nation British Columbia has chosen to withdraw from the Métis National Council. This decision comes after community leaders expressed concerns about governance and representation during a virtual assembly. President Walter Minnow shared that, after 40 years of working together, the current governance structure is no longer fair. The Métis Nation represents a unique blend of Indigenous and European cultures in Canada. This withdrawal could lead to more local control for Métis people in British Columbia and might inspire other Indigenous groups to seek greater autonomy in their governance.
This week in Canada, key events. This week in Canada, several important events unfolded across the nation. In Toronto, Canada Post workers rallied for better wages and improved working conditions amid ongoing labor issues. Meanwhile, in La Macasa, Quebec, the parole hearing of infamous criminal Paul Bernardo drew significant public attention, raising serious concerns about safety and justice. On a brighter note, pop star Taylor Swift announced her upcoming performances in Vancouver, British Columbia, creating a buzz among her fans. Additionally, protests against NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, took place in Montreal, reflecting public sentiment about international military alliances. These events highlight ongoing social and cultural issues in Canada and spark vital discussions about labor rights, public safety, and political engagement within our communities.
UK business confidence plummets amid tax increases. Business confidence in the United Kingdom has dropped to its lowest point since the COVID-19 pandemic, according to the Institute of Directors. Their latest report shows a significant decline in optimism among business leaders, with the confidence gauge falling to -65 from -52 in October. This decline follows Finance Minister Rachel Reeves' announcement of a budget that includes tax increases totaling £40 billion, which is about $51 billion. Additionally, there is a notable rise of £25 billion, or roughly $31.8 billion, in employers' annual Social Security contributions. The survey, conducted between November 15 and November 27, received 601 responses, primarily from small businesses. The report raises concerns that these tax hikes could limit businesses' ability to invest and grow. With the economic outlook remaining unclear, many businesses are now rethinking their investment plans in response to these changes.
Ontario government's $77 million support for municipalities. The Ontario provincial government in Canada has announced a significant funding relief of $77 million to assist municipalities with rising police service costs. This decision comes as local leaders voice concerns over increasing law enforcement expenses, primarily due to recent salary increases for the Ontario Provincial Police, known as OPP. Officers received a retroactive raise of 4.75% for 2023, with additional increases of 4.5% for 2024 and 2.75% for the following 2 years. For instance, Russell Township's policing bill is projected to rise from $2.3 million in 2023 to an estimated $2.8 million in 2024. This funding aims to alleviate the financial pressure on local governments, enabling them to balance their budgets while maintaining essential police services. The repeal of Bill 124, which had capped public sector wages, has contributed to these increases. This funding announcement is crucial for ensuring public safety and supporting community investments in Eastern Ontario.
Lawsuit against Key First Nation councillors. The chief of Key First Nation in Saskatchewan, Canada, has filed a lawsuit against 2 band councillors, Sydney Cashane and Kimberly Cashane. The lawsuit claims that these councillors received payments in return for awarding contracts, seeking over $3.8 million in damages. This case sheds light on ongoing governance issues within the First Nation, as community members express their worries about leadership and transparency. With around 1,500 members, including 300 living on the reserve, Key First Nations situation reflects the broader challenges faced by Indigenous communities in Canada regarding trust in leadership and accountability. The outcome of this lawsuit could shape future governance reforms and efforts to tackle corruption in First Nations.
Global efforts to combat plastic pollution. Negotiators from over 100 countries have come together in Busan, South Korea, to discuss a new international treaty focused on tackling the urgent issue of plastic pollution. With plastic production expected to triple by 2050, these discussions are crucial. Countries are split on whether to set limits on plastic production or concentrate solely on waste management. Key players in these talks include the European Union and oil-producing nations like Saudi Arabia, which resist strict production caps. A recent report from the United Nations Environment Programme has uncovered over 3,200 harmful chemicals found in plastics, underscoring the seriousness of the situation. The results of these discussions could greatly affect environmental policies around the world, shaping how nations handle plastic production and waste. A successful treaty could lead to less plastic use, benefiting industries and fostering healthier ecosystems. The stakes are high, as the well-being of our planet and its people relies on effective solutions to the plastic crisis.
FIFA's responsibility to migrant workers in Qatar. A recent report has revealed that FIFA has not adequately compensated migrant workers involved in the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. Although FIFA established a $50 million legacy fund for social programs, critics argue that this amount is insufficient to meet the needs of workers who have faced exploitation. Amnesty International is urging FIFA to set aside $440 million to match the World Cup prize money for worker compensation. The report shows that many workers have not received the support they deserve, despite their significant contributions to the event. FIFA President Gianni Infantino mentioned that the Workers' Support and Insurance Fund has provided over $350 million to help workers with issues like unpaid wages. This ongoing situation raises serious concerns about human rights and labor practices in Qatar, a small country located on the northeastern coast of the Arabian Peninsula. The implications of FIFA's actions could harm its reputation and impact future events, especially as pressure grows from human rights organizations and the public.
That is all the news for today. Thank you for listening to today's Headphone News. News summary brought to you by AI.